Let's talk about it.
Hello, and welcome back to Thicc Radio, the podcast where we talk about gaming and everything in its orbit. I'm James.
And I'm Tim. Let's get into this. Today we're joined by two special guests. You should know them, and you definitely should love them. Today we are joined by Abe and Mike.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome. Oh my gosh, thank you so much both for being here. How are you both?
Good.
Good, man. How
Very
are you?
good.
How are you guys?
I'm good. It's
Doing well.
It's a warm day in London, which they're few and far between, but it's lovely. As a pasty ginger, I am lovingly inside in the shade where I belong. Jesus did not construct me for sunlight. It really did not.
Okay, man. Sunscreen. That's why you have sunscreen.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, sunscreen.
100. Going on a cruise January next year, and I am truly like, I think I'm actually going to have to be that person who like fake tans a bit before I get there so that I don't actually combust.
There's 1 minute under that hot Caribbean sun, and James is going to go up like a Roman candle.
Exactly. I'll know that I'm pre-tanned enough when my beard is monochrome with my skin.
There you go.
That's the vibe I want.
All right.
You've never been on a cruise before, right, James? Or
Never.
okay, it's hot. It's very hot.
I mean, I grew up in Australia. Like, I'm very well accustomed to, like, not that I enjoy it, but 40 degrees Celsius, 110 degree Fahrenheit days. Like, I get it. I've lived through them. I'm still here to tell the tale. But a bitch wants to enjoy her time bobbing around. So, she's going to have to get a little something before she goes.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. So I want to thank you both as well for being here today, because as you both know, and for the listeners, today we're really focusing on something very important, which is BLM, and really wanting to talk about the nature of race in the gainer community, because it's a conversation that needs to be had across all fields, of course, but this is our podcast. This is us sitting down and talking about it today. So first things first, I want to ask the pair of you, what have your journeys been like from discovering the gaming community and your participation in it since then?
Ooh, what's my journey been like? I was really excited at first, I think, because, I had the internet as a kid, so I jumped on, found what I could find, and I don't know if any of you all remember like Fat Nats and all of them old school ones. Yeah, exactly. So I was like, cool, community that sort of I can feel like I fit into, but to now I never actually felt that I did. So yeah, I kind of like now I don't really engage too much in the gamer community. Either like both sides, to be honest, like the side that's for gay dudes, and also the side that's for like straight women. It's mainly focused around women gaining weight, not men. So I guess for that reason, I never really felt like I had a place that fit really for me. So yeah, I still feel quite outside. Kind of actually started to affect my mental health a little bit, because there were points where I was just kind of like, I don't know what's wrong with me. Like, what's wrong with me? Like, why is no one engaging with me in the way that I can see that they're engaging with other people? So I kind of just distanced myself from it, and have honestly been better for it.
So for me, do you want me to start from the beginning, or like because from the beginning is a long story. But since I came onto the community, I really discovered it more through Grommr when I was like 18. So we're talking 2012, which wasn't that long ago. Well, it was long ago, but it wasn't that long ago. So I wanted to get involved. As I got older, I got more involved and so on and so forth. And I did notice, especially on Grommr, again, not knocking the site, as y'all always say, not knocking the site. It's just a comment on how things are on the site. I saw the way that people were being treated differently on Grommr and how some people hold almost like a celebrity status, and how overwhelmingly those people are white. And me entering that space as a brown person in real life spaces, I would notice the disparity of people not approaching me, or people approaching me for specific reasons, or the like fetishizing and all of that stuff. It was that's kind of when I realized, all right, like there's an intersection here that I was not told about coming into this, that I have to be aware of moving forward. And that has taken shape in many different ways. I have stepped back in some moments. I've stepped in again in other moments. The most healing thing for me has been finding people like me, which has been hard, especially like during COVID and everything. But I've been able to do that through the internet, through traveling, all of that stuff, which is not accessible to everyone. So like, but it's very, very difficult. At least it has been for me to find community that I resonate with a little more because of that.
It's funny. The moment you say people on Grommr who are treated kind of celebrity status, the term Grommr-celebrity gets thrown around a bit. It's funny. At one point, not too long ago, someone actually challenged me to think, like, name a Grommr-celebrity who is not white. And I just couldn't name one. I think as well, when you consider certain people who are able to make money off the website and who make money and finance themselves and their own gains, and some people, they even manage to pay their rent through the amount of money that they make. I don't know any people of color who do that. Everyone who does this is white. I think, like you say, when you look at it, it becomes very clear that there is a very strong preference system, whether it's intentional on Grommr's part or not. It certainly has at least become that way. And at the very least is something that each and every one of us needs to be aware of. Tim, I'm curious to actually ask, because you identify as mixed race, don't you, with your heritage?
I do, yeah. And it's this full disclosure, this conversation is difficult for me to have, not because it's a difficult subject, but just because it's often difficult to articulate what my personal experiences have been like, because I come from two races, right? Like my dad's Black, my mom's white. Although there's a lot of stuff mixed in with my dad as well. There's some East Asian, there's some South Asian. There is some like very small portions like from the Caribbean. So it's really hard for me to like look as racially ambiguous as I do, and yet identify as a person of color. When people look at me, their immediate thought is not, oh, you're a person of color, because I can clearly see it. They usually think I'm just a little bit tan. They think, oh, maybe he's Italian, or he's possibly Greek, or he could be, he could even be a little bit Middle Eastern. We don't know. It's never immediately like, and no one in my entire life has ever looked at me and said, do you have a Black dad, or are you mixed race, or what, that's never happened. So it's really hard for me to like explain what it's like to grow up being taught to identify as a person of color, but never being seen as a person of color.
Yeah.
My understanding is really with each one of the three of you, I think each and every one of those perspectives is so important to really have that rounded conversation.
Oh, yeah.
Because realistically, between the three of you all, there is really every sort of step on that spectrum, between being so visibly darker of skin to the point of ambiguity where there are probably moments of privilege and being passing and moments of ambiguity and all of that.
It's something that I rarely talk about, honestly. And I just had a conversation with my parents a couple months ago, because since, the advent of the BLM movement, my mother, I think she wanted to know, like, what was it like for you? Because it's just not something she thought about. She raised 3 children of mixed race, and we're just her beautiful children. She doesn't think about that. She doesn't think about the fact that my dad is Black. This is the man that she loves, so it's not something that enters into her. Of course, she can see that he's different, but like, love is also blind. And when I told her like everything that I experienced growing up, she's like, oh my God, I had no idea. I really had no idea.
I mean, I think BLM is probably the next big thing to really touch on for today, because obviously coming on the other side of the pandemonium, the Panda Express, the pandemic, I think we're all calling it different things these days.
Yeah.
But really, when the pandemic really kind of first hit its swing, and we thought Australia's on fire, now we're in a pandemic, surely that's it for the year. No, something else happened, and as a non-Black person observing it, I can see the absolute importance of that needing to have happened as well. It's sad, of course, and horrifying that someone else has to lose their life in order for the media to start to pick up on things, for the straw to break the camel's back, to push people like myself to be more active. But that happened. George Floyd was murdered, and BLM, which was already existing, I think it was created back in 2013. Is that right? With the I think it was Trayvon Martin and George Zimmerman. I think that was the case. And
2012, yeah.
And BLM sort of came forward from that. And obviously it's had its resurgence since then. And it, as an outsider, it does appear to me that there have been changes, that there have been positive things happening in different communities that seem to genuinely signal active change that is better for people of color. But all that to say, I'm an outsider seeing that. That's my interpretation of it. You guys live and operate within that. I want to ask, what is that like for you? Do you actively see those moments changing? Do you feel that in the zeitgeist that there is
100%? Yes. Yeah. It kind of feels like a sort of magical time for me that I thought would probably happen at some point, but not in my lifetime, sort of thing, where it seems like people of color are beginning, like, obviously there's still a whole lot of this process to go, but it seems like they're beginning to, firstly, they themselves are beginning to understand their worth, but also, everyone else is also beginning to understand their worth as well, because this whole time, like, I feel like what is valuable in Black culture and like other cultures was always used, but it was just never given credit. So yeah, I think for me it's sort of a time that I didn't think I would actually live to see, because now, especially after Black Panther, I think that was like a huge turning point, because there was this massive blockbuster film that was good as, if not better than, all of the other films of its type around, and it was the main people. I'd never seen a main character that's Black and a superhero. It just never happened, like not to that level of quality. So yeah, and I think because of that, people kind of saw people of color, they are, like they do have value. So yeah, I think I've only seen positive things, really.
There has been positive change. I am always the person to claim for more.
Yeah.
There has been positive change. So from where I am here on the East Coast of the US, I've seen things slowly change in means of like localities, local cities, all that stuff. But there hasn't been, at least here, nothing systemic. And that is kind like, in my mind, when I think of like a movement, the movement, to me, that also includes systemic change. Like
Right.
as important as individual interactions are, and they are super, super important, the until that systemic change starts happening, that like this is going to continue to happen. So I have seen improvements from my own viewpoint. Where is that systemic change happening? You know what I mean? Like that's kind of like what I'm looking forward to, and I haven't seen that. I think it was last week that Joe Biden said that he wouldn't touch on reparations at all, and that was a moment that it was like, okay, cool. So everything that's happened over the last year, everything that's happened over the last 10 years, over the last, let's be honest, over 100 years, where is all that? Like, don't just talk the talk. And that's how that feels. So like, yeah, individually, there has been a lot of changes. I'm really happy. Like more and more people that I didn't think would want to get involved were exposed to this and were involved and are actually like trying to make changes in their own families, their own lives. And that's super, super important. Acknowledging that there also has to be systemic change that has to happen.
I mean, I do agree with you 100%. Yeah, there's still more to do. But I do also think like it's a process. Like it's
Absolutely.
all baby steps. Like, you know, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, we were not where we are now. And then 20 years ago before that, things were very different again. So I think we're moving in the right direction.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're in the right, but you're right. There's still more to go. Yeah.
We don't want to also lose sight that taking a moment to celebrate is also revolutionary.
Yes.
So like we have to celebrate the fact that we have moved a lot.
We do.
From where we were.
Agreed. Yeah.
And we also have to make sure that it doesn't stop us from continuing to move forward, especially as allies. So.
Yeah. I've got a question. In America, like, because over here, I can see there is much more organization within the Black community in terms of like business and just actually just being a community and supporting our own instead of, you know, giving money to, I don't know, another company that's, you know, maybe not Black owned by a person of color. But there seems to be more of that now. Is that the case in America too?
I think so.
I would say so.
From what I know, yeah.
I think it kind of galvanized the Black community here in the United States to remember what the first civil rights movement had been about and how to go about civil unrest and how to take things down. And it's always attack the money because we're a venture capitalism society. And the only way you're going to affect change is if you go after the money.
Yeah.
It's just literally the only way that it has ever worked in this country.
Yep.
Yeah.
Actually, Mike, I think it might have been you that I had this conversation with during the sort of first instances last year with BLM. I think it was with you I had this conversation. There's like a directory for Black business in the UK. I think it is just called like the Black Directory. So listeners, we're going to find a link for this actually and provide this on the Instagram. Because it's a directory where I believe it's like you type in, like it's kind of broken down into rough categories of like the type of business, and then it gives you like names and locations. And because of how this stuff works, obviously a lot of it I think is London based and maybe looks at certain other hotspots like with Birmingham and with Manchester. But you know, things like this are out there, and you know, if you something that I try to do. I have a friend here in London who I try to buy artwork from because she's a Black artist and she creates artwork. I love to buy artwork from her because firstly, I love her art, but also she's a Black creator. I want to support Black creators. So if you're looking for something that is going to very genuinely impact the life of people of color and show allyship and make good steps, money is a good way of doing that. Business, buy business, give them your business, give them your dollar, because you will only grow their business, extend their reach, and give them more power to do more wonderful things in this world. It's interesting, this conversation about systemic change and needing to see that, because that kind of brings us to the whole point of this podcast, which is, because it's gaining adjacent, the gainer community. I want to ask your opinions. In terms of the gainer community, do you think that, especially in light of BLM, that there is positive change and progress happening within the community in terms of race, or is it not really happening?
I don't see a whole lot of change in the gainer community. I think that similarly, there's been a sort of galvanization of the people of color, the circles of people of color. But outside of that, I don't really see a lot of change. I think I can see people witnessing what's going on and, having opinions about what's going on, whether for or against, but I don't really see that anyone's actions are changing.
Right.
That's also kind of where I stand too. From what I've seen, it's more people reacting to what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And those reactions can vary. They may be having conversations in their own families with their own loved ones, which again is important. But I wouldn't say I'm seeing like a wide systemic change when it comes to the gaming community. In fact, right when BLM started and I was back on Grommr, I kind of used that moment to erase people that I was following who would start to make horrific comments.
Oh man, I had not to interrupt you, sorry, but there are some really awful people. I remember one guy who was talking to me and he eventually came out with the reason why he's talking to me is because he wants to feed Africa. It's just what, bro?
Oh, for the love.
And then God. And then I saw all of his other postings and he was just feed Africa. I want to feed those starving bellies in Africa. Just oh my goodness. Erase. So
yeah, no, absolutely not. That's fucking horrifying.
That's awful. I fully just choked on my coke. I'm so sorry that happened. That's insane.
Yeah. I mean, I was very much just okay, well, this person is nuts. Bye-bye. Yeah. But, it's just a reflection of, how things are.
Right.
Basically. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry to cut you, Abe.
No, absolutely. To add on to that, yes, the gaming community is widely centered around a fetish-ish, which it isn't only that, obviously, but it's widely centered around that. But we still have to understand that fetishizing people of color isn't support. And right, a lot of people, especially during all the news outlets and everything, would say I can't believe this is happening. I love chocolate brown dark, but stop, not this, not now. It's not the time for it, not the space for it. Because again, fetishizing people of color is not support, and I think that should probably be said.
No, I think you're completely right. I think that's an important sentence. Fetishizing people of color is not support people. It's not support. It's
for anyone on the podcast who was listening and thought maybe it was, you have heard it here officially from a person of color. It is officially declared not support. Please take that to the bank and cash that statement.
Make sure you cash it. Okay?
Make sure you cash it. Sorry, Tim.
Okay, so unpopular opinion. All right. So I think we can agree that the majority of people who are into this community are gay men, right? That's at least the majority.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, like I said, unpopular opinion, the gay community really has this issue with understanding social progress while demanding it at the same time. We are behind the times on so many things while we are always clamoring for things to move forward. I can't tell you how many times I have seen this happen out in bar culture or during Pride, or where people are saying, "Oh, we still have to keep fighting. We're still this grassroots thing, and we're going to damn the man and all that." Oh, but by the way, I still don't want any fats, any femmes, or any Asians. You know, it's like you can't have it both ways, guys.
Mhm.
You have to understand that if you want to be socially progressive, you have to be able to open your mind to all things and understand the struggles of others. I mean, even if you grew up in a little white bubble and that's all you've ever seen and all you've ever known, it doesn't have to be that way.
Right.
You know, like personally, like I didn't know any trans people at one point in my life, right? But then I got to know some people that were trans, and they told me their stories, and I understood, and I'm like, oh my God, you know, I can't believe that I didn't have any trans friends before this. And it's like it's such a conundrum to me that I know so many gay men who will be like, oh, the struggle will never be over, but I don't date black guys because it's just not a personal preference.
Right.
Like, where do you come off with that shit? Like, what the fuck?
I think that's what they call privilege.
Yes, I know. And
but it's absolutely true. I mean, it's something as simple as, you know, challenging someone, like the amount of gay men who will post the group photo of like 30 gays all on the party boat. And I'm like, why is everyone white? Like,
and just to cut you off, we're including the gainers or including the bears in that category. A lot of y'all post those pictures with 30 of y'all and you're all white.
Yes.
It's like
the bears. Yes, I've seen it. I've been on Grommr. I've seen it.
Like, you could possibly make the argument for trans people, like there's not a whole bunch around. Like, okay, sure, like maybe there's not a whole bunch around, but like black people are not exactly a rarity, like especially because of like colonialism. Like they're everywhere. Like they exist in all spaces. Like y'all are about. Like you found 30 fags, but you couldn't find one. Like not even like with a deep tan. Like you couldn't find like not even like a little bit Latin. You couldn't find like anything. Like it's just, to me, it's that thing where you can't help but notice, especially when you start to acknowledge it and look. Because I think, like a lot of other white people possibly listening, when you first learned about race as a construct and race as a problem, you probably thought to yourself, much like I did, oh, I guess that's a problem, but maybe not that much of a problem. I'm sure I would have noticed. But then as time goes on and you start to see certain things and hear certain things about what goes on, and then it kind of escalates and you go, oh, wow, oh my, oh God. And you really do see, like, there's just so much that goes on. And it's really quite shocking, especially when you have to acknowledge that you didn't see it before.
Right.
So to my fellow white person listening, I would really like to encourage you, if you look at your friend circle and you don't see a lot of people of color in that, I would really like to encourage you to try and get to know people who are people of, be intentional about getting to know people of color. It doesn't have to be, especially probably, please don't make it the whole like, oh, I'm getting to know you because you're black. Like that's a bit gross.
Yeah, that'll just make it worse.
Right.
That's just gross. But you know,
be open. Yeah.
Who on your local newsfeed is a person of color? They're local to you. Get to know them because they are local to you. Get to know them and their story. And when these instances come up in the newsfeed or in the world, speak to them about it and ask them, how are you doing? Are you okay? Connect with them on that level and show support. I think sometimes white people can get very caught up in like, we don't quite know what the right thing is to do, and so people don't do anything. Which I think is worse. I think, Abe, you and I have had this conversation where it's like, I will always acknowledge that my goal is to be anti-racist, and so therefore attack racism anywhere I see it, which includes within myself, to challenge myself. And we acknowledge that I'm probably still going to fuck up because it's the world, I'm human, shit happens. We live in systemic racist societies. It is bound to occur time after time. But you acknowledge it, and then you go, I'm real sorry. This is the right way forward. And then you do that, and you do it with the intent of, I want to do the right thing.
And also, sorry.
Oh no, I was just going to add, like, I would go even further when it comes to the systemic stuff. Like we talked about how systemic racism works. And if you are not a person of color, and so don't do things like, so you're walking down a city block and you see a group of people of color are walking towards you. Don't immediately assume the worst. Don't cross the street. Don't think all of a sudden, oh my God, I need to like get all nervous and hunched up. Like, don't talk about certain areas of town that you don't want to go to because it's a certain type of neighborhood, and don't go there, you'll get shot. Or just don't do shit like that. Just accept the fact that, you know, it's, I'm trying to think of how else to articulate this, but like, just don't assume things immediately, you know?
Yeah. Well, I actually heard a interesting quote, which actually rung true to me, because what I was going to say, Black people also have these realizations too, because there were things that I was, doing, and thoughts that I had about Black people that, was just it's just what I had been taught, and it wasn't true, and it wasn't positive. But it's just what I had been taught. And I had to have also the realization that, oh, wait a minute, some of these things that I'm thinking are actually, like I said, they're not true, and they're also just not helpful. So what am I going to actually do about that? So, yes, white people, yeah, but it's also not just white people. And it really, once you have that realization, it really goes towards, as a person of color, boosting how you view yourself and how you view other Black people. Now, the quote that I heard that I kind of resonated me, and I was like, that makes a lot of sense. It's something along the lines of, the first thought you have about something is what you were taught. The second thought is you. You can choose the second thought. The first thought is, because I am guilty of seeing a group of Black hooded people, men, walking down the street and being like, oh shit, what are they? And that's my first thought. Not, not like all the time, but that's what I've been taught my first thought should be, from TV, from, everywhere, from everywhere. Yeah. But my second thought is very different to that. And you can choose your second thought. And the thing is, this is how things make progress, because, you teach your children, your nephews, nieces, whatever, you teach the next generation your second thought, not the first. Teach them the second thought. So their first thought is not the same as yours.
That's incredible. I love that. That's so good. That's great. Sorry, Abe, you were...
No, that wasn't gonna. He summed everything up perfectly.
Podcast done. That's it, guys. No, but that was such a gorgeous thought and so well articulated. Mike, thank you for that.
All right. Yeah.
And there you go. Your first thought is what you were taught. Your second thought is you teach your second thought.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I want to pose a question to you guys. So during all of this last year, you'll obviously have seen like the login screen for Grommr. There's like a series of menses of different races, sizes, proclivities that they had to sort of illustrate like, oh, we're a diverse community, join us, blah, blah, blah. One of those characters was a police officer. And during last year, that character was removed. In fact, I actually wrote it up here. So the screen art was edited. The number of persons was reduced by almost half, and almost every character that was removed was painted Caucasian, but it also included one police officer, and that's what was removed. This apparently wasn't done with the artist's permission, but I'm curious to know, because at the time there was a lot of conversation about, is this the right move to make? Is it virtue signaling? A lot of back and forth from different parties, and I don't know if people reached a resolution on this. I'd be curious to know, what do you guys make of it?
I think it's nice.
Yeah.
That's about it. You know what I mean? It's like, it's cool. It's respectful. It's nice that they were able to honestly remove the cop. It's a whole other conversation, but like, yeah, I'm here for that. I think that more can be done for the community itself rather than just the change of a picture. Not saying that change wasn't important or wasn't, necessary. More can be done. And I think if we stop at just the picture, that's the issue.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. I'm going to make an assumption here, and I could be completely wrong. So if someone knows better, please point it out to me. But I believe that all of the men who actually own the entire Grokio community are all white, correct?
I don't know.
Correct. I'm pretty sure, because I'm pretty
sure that at least most of them, if not all. And I think that and again, this is probably not a good assumption to make, but I feel like what happened during, all the protests and everything, and, seeing all this police brutality, they may have gotten nervous and they may have thought, we need to change this. We need to change it in a hurry because we don't want to project the wrong idea, that we don't want them to think that we are not inclusive. So we got to work fast. And so, and I don't know, maybe they purchased that artwork from the artist and it's like, now it's our property.
Right.
I don't know how that works once you purchase like artwork, or how they worked out their business with that artist. But like, if it's theirs and they own like a copyright to the image, they have the right to remove anything from it that they want.
Yeah.
And, in the advent of everything that was going on, I don't blame them for wanting to remove the cop. I mean, that was a real big trigger. So
it was a trigger before. And like, this is just the acknowledging of that being a trigger. Like, I remember the first time going on that website in like 2012 and seeing the cop being like, I don't know if I should join, just because like I'm seeing the fact that, all right, does this website openly support the police? And as good as that sounds to do in this context, in my context of my lived experience, that's not something that makes me feel safe. So it's like, it's the acknowledging of that trigger.
Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense. Sorry, Mike, did you have anything you wanted to add there?
Not really. I mean, I think just I think probably, I'm obviously speculating here, I have no idea, but I assumed the reason why they put the policeman up there was just to show that, people of all walks of life can, be gainers, That's how I took it first. And I actually, until you said, I didn't know they had taken it off. And until you said that, James, I never even thought about it. And it never even crossed my mind. But I can definitely see it being a problem for some people. And I think it's probably, especially now, probably for the best that they took it down.
Yeah.
I wonder if I wonder if the reason why they included the cop in the first place was as a sort of homage to Warren Davis, because remember, Warren Davis has an entire panel of comics about the joining the force story.
That's right, yeah.
And that is sometimes a common fantasy among gainers, is this idea of getting to fatten up a cop, because what are the stereotypes about cops? They love donuts. So, I mean, I don't know if they originally included it because they're trying to show all these different professions and walks of life, or if they were just doing a very shallow homage to Warren Davis.
Right.
And I'm also curious, what do you guys think then of something like Joining the Force, which is, all of Davis's artwork is iconic. Like, is that triggering?
I've never been like, if I see artwork or if I see a story that involves the police, I just stay away from it. It's, I understand that for some people it is a fantasy. Not for me though. I just, it's not necessarily a thing that I want to be involved in. So I just like, I know that Warren Davis has that whole story, that whole panel. There are other ways to make an homage to Warren Davis.
Gotcha.
I completely get that. I do. I want to shift gears a little bit and actually ask you guys, because we can't name any Black Grommr celebrities. Who are some of your favorite Black and POC gainers? Like, who inspires you? Who do you love? Who do you think puts out great vibes? Like, who are some Black and POC people that we need to be following and really lifting up?
There's only one I could think of, but again, like I said, I sort of detached from Grommr and all that sort of stuff. But there was one guy who was awesome because he was just the nicest guy. He was huge, Black guy, tall, but he was just the nicest guy. He was so nice to everyone. He gave everyone time, and I can't remember his name. I could probably find it if I went into my Grommr account, but I'm pretty sure it was I think his actual name was Willie or something like that. Yes, are you it looks like you're remembering maybe.
I'm going to quickly go to my Instagram because I think if I type in Willie, if
you show me his face, I think I'll recognize him.
Hang on.
Yes, that's him.
So, listeners, the person we're referring to on Instagram is November 13, and that's Burr, like Burr. And I've spoken to Willie a little bit. He's a gorgeous person who has such a gentle heart, gentle spirit, love and kindness. He puts himself up with a little top hat sometimes. I've never quite worked out if it's like a Dr. Facilier cosplay he's doing, but he looks great. And he's just so nice.
Mm-hmm.
He really, it's funny, you were saying that. He's actually the person that came to mind. I was like, I wonder if we're talking about, if you're talking about the same person that came to mind. So November 13, there you go. That's one for people to go and follow.
Mm-hmm.
Abe, does anyone come to mind for you?
Yeah. Do they have to be gainer specific, or can they just be like big boys in general?
Do you know what? I think big boys in general, because
Okay.
I think of like Lolo Vons on.
I was gonna say Lolo.
Lolo, he's so beautiful too. You know,
He is
thick, stunning. He also has a podcast which I'm going to promote here, Big Boy Brunch.
Big Boy Brunch.
You know, it's such a great listen. Very similar vibes, I think. Just it's a bunch of friends just talking, shooting the shit, and talking about whatever. Obviously, theirs has a very specific like Black focus, but it's great. It's a real joy as well. Yeah. And I think to sort of say that for a moment, Black joy is something that's so incredible. Like the way people can come together and have such passion and such happiness is quite beautiful to observe, even as an outsider. So Lolo Bonds, that's going to be my shout. Sorry to take that.
No, absolutely not.
Who else you got?
Slabs of Abs.
Absolutely.
Slabs the dot of Abs. I love him. He's fantastic. His content is incredible. I've met him in person a few times at Rock Bar here in New York City, and he's great. For Piggish, I think is his username on Instagram. This other person, he's gone by several names in the past, but that's his current one. He also makes content that I really enjoy. He's a cool guy, a very nice dude. I know other content creators. I just have to look through my list.
Yeah, there's like a few. Wait, did we say they don't have to be gainers? I can't remember.
Yeah, I have gainers.
I think we said like gainers, but do you know what? If they are just big, beautiful brown or black boys who we need to be lifting up, like give us a name. Who is it? Who do we need to follow?
Well, to be honest, like so after I had a chat with you and you like convinced me to like speak on this sort of stuff, I made the Instagram point Big Boy Bravery because I kind of wanted. I saw that basically, you know, in the media, big guys, there's nothing that lifts them up at all.
Yes.
So on that, and even on my personal Instagram as well, I kind of try and follow, you know, big guys that are, you know, comfortable with their weight. It doesn't mean it doesn't matter if they're, you know, trying to be healthy, just as long as they're comfortable with their weight and they're also like doing stuff and they're in the public eye, just as to be honest, like more than anything else for me, just as like a personal list of people who are, you know, big and doing it. So yeah, I there are a few on there. I know there's what is that? He's an actor. I don't know if I can remember his name because my memory is the worst.
The Taylor Swift movie or the Taylor Swift music video?
Who?
Dexter Mayfield.
No, it's not Dexter Mayfield. But who's Dexter Mayfield? No, I don't know.
Dexter Mayfield is it. Like,
oh, okay.
When I tell you that you should be a model, like I see you and Dexter Mayfield side by side, like you both width-wise would take up the entire runway, and I need to see both the big boys jumping it down. That would be everything. Dexter,
okay.
Look up the name Dexter Mayfield. He's gorgeous. Oh my god.
I'll definitely look up Dexter. Who? Mayfield.
Dexter Mayfield. That's the name.
Okay. Okay. Cool. I'm gonna jot that down. And also, the guy I was talking about was. He played Beverly Loughlin. I'm literally just trying to find out. Craig Robinson. He's a comedy actor. Big guy. Has anyone seen Brooklyn Nine-Nine?
No. Right. He's the guy that's always got the
yes,
little throat. Yes.
He's awesome. I love him. He's funny. He does like the sort of comedy that I like. And he's big, fat, and black, and he seems to be very happy with that. So
He plays a Cadillac Bandit. That was the character.
Yes. What was he? What's his name? Pontiac Bandit.
The Pontiac Bandit. That's the one. Oh,
yeah.
Oh my goodness. Also shouting out. I think is it Twink to Hog?
Yes.
Now this is the boy. Now I'm going to say that he's not big. He's an encourager and potential gainer because we've actually had him on the podcast previously. But he's so gorgeous. He's just such a handsome young man who I just would love to take him home if I could.
Wouldn't we all?
Oh my goodness. Sorry, Tim. Who have you got on your list? Who are some people?
I'm furiously scrolling through my Twitter trying to find the name of this particular guy, but one of them that springs to mind immediately, and I'm sure you guys have seen him. He is a male model, and I believe he's Latinx, and he's big. He's very, he's got a big belly, he's got a big chest. He's modeling for like some of the biggest fashion houses right now. I, for the life of me, cannot find out what his profile name is because he doesn't post that frequently. So
is he Brazilian?
He might be Brazilian. I don't actually know what his actual like national origin is.
Yeah.
But he's just a gorgeous man. I mean, the most beautiful face, and he's got this big, soft, round body and all these curves. And like he's modeling for Versace and Dior and all these major fashion houses, which is just fucking amazing.
I think you're thinking of the Instagram Cuddly Boy.
No, but him too. I know he's also modeling. I don't know like which houses he's modeled for. I just remember seeing the other guy that I was talking about, but Cuddly Boy definitely.
Oh my God, he is
gorgeous man ever.
I'm sorry. We've just evolved into just a little like drool fest. Beautiful.
Oh my God, he is so attractive. That is.
And then there's one that actually lives close to me. His name is Chris Jun. I don't know if I should spell out the name in case people are looking for him, but he lives in Ohio, and he's absolutely delicious.
There's a guy I follow who, and I cannot remember his username for the life of me, but he actually, he's a wheelchair user and he's missing a leg. He's big. And I'm just, why can't I?
It helps having a disability because it means you can't walk so much.
Yeah, well, listen.
As a disabled guy, I can testify.
Oh my goodness. You know what? Maybe that's going to be your episode that you come on in future for us, speaking about gaining with a disability, because
maybe so.
You make it work, bitch. You have a fabulous cane.
Thank you. I don't have it on me, or I'd like show them, but yeah.
Oh.
So it's basically like it's got a gold like bird's head on the top, which is cool because I feel like if anyone tries anything, I've got a metal beak right here.
Ow, get him where it hurts.
Yeah.
Real quick,
yes.
Real quick, I want to shout out two more people.
Yes.
First of all, there's Superboy2814. He is local to my area. I've seen him around. He's a nice guy. And then also Cinnamon Bun, Ethan.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
I feel like I know who that is.
You may know who that is. Yeah, he and I met when I was over in London 2 years ago, alongside James, and great guy.
And he was skinny at the time.
He was very skinny.
I didn't listen. This is truly not to sound bad. I did not really remember him because he was also only there for like the first couple of bits.
Yeah.
He went home, and this guy, this fucking fat, beautiful brown man messaged me on Insta talking to me like he knew me, and I'm thinking there is something about you that's familiar, but I can't remember. He's like, do you remember I met you that night with Abe? And I was like, what? Because it wasn't that fucking long ago, and
yeah,
he was so big in that time. Holy shit. So yeah, Cinnamon Bear Buns, go follow him too. Beautiful. I've followed like 5 people today, and they are also gorgeous. Oh my goodness. Listeners, pause this episode and go follow everyone. And if you are a person of color and we have not shouted you out today, please get in touch with us because we are always looking to shout out, promote, talk up, rate, review, and give love to all of you beautiful people out there who need a little bit of extra time and devotion. So please, let us do that for you. Get in touch. But to refocus, because we did disappear down a sort of love fest there.
Definitely took a little detour there.
Oh my gosh. I am curious because obviously there's different cultural ideas that come with obesity depending on the person, the family, the national identity. What is it like for you as a person of color becoming fat? Like, what is the sort of cultural commentary on being a fat Black or brown person?
Black people can be very blunt. There was a lot of family gatherings and a lot of, wow, you got fat. Just like, okay, cool. Which, that's a compliment, but also, it's sort of coming with judgment as well. So it's not so nice. Quite a lot of that culturally. It'd be cool. Like, I don't know much about Middle Eastern cultures, but in my head, I feel like it's way more accepted there to like be bigger. It's just, I don't know. It's okay, I guess.
For me, in a lot of Latin America, it's very casual to like nickname people, right? And a very common nickname would be like gordito, gordita, which literally means like little fat person, or like little fat man, little fat woman. That's literally what that means. It's very, very common. It's not really insulting anywhere in Latin America. Like my grandma used to call my father that all the time, like ever since I was a little kid. So like, it's not really a huge deal unless it's coming, like it's directed to you from like a family member, and when they're like, oh, you've gained some weight, like, there's some judgment behind that. So like that's still there. And then there's like the health conversations that always happen too. At the same time, we have like culturally, it's kind of like an experience to have your family just kind of like give you food and you have to finish it. Like you have to continuously eat. So it's this thing of like, you're essentially feeding me, but you're also telling me to not gain weight.
No, my family and they're actually I'm the only fat one in my family, aside from my auntie who lives in America. The whole of both sides, all slim. So food's not really, well, all very good cooks actually. Everyone can cook real well, but no one really goes in on eating. So yeah, I mean, I spent most of my life skinny, so yeah, it was very much a decision to like gain weight. Yeah,
I feel that. What about you? Because I imagine that there might be that kind of conflict between, like, because I think you said before, like, your mother is Polish by ethnicity.
Yes.
So like, I imagine there might be a bit of difference between like how your mother might try to raise a child around food versus how your dad might raise a child around food.
I mean, I think that they were pretty equal on that idea of like, in fact, me and my two sisters all growing up, we were just finicky eaters, and they actually had to like make us eat because, like most kids, sitting down to a meal is not something that they want to be doing because there's other stuff they want to do.
Right.
And then, I grew up skinny, both my sisters grew up skinny, but then there comes a certain point towards the late 20s, beginning of the 30s, where we get the family spread because we get my dad's genetics and we all start to spread out a bit. And because I basically look exactly like my father, and he's put on a lot of weight over the years, it's like no one really says anything because there's such a strong familial resemblance that everyone just expects that, oh, he's just like his dad and he's going to end up just like his dad. And my mom doesn't care because she's married to, my dad, and she accepts him the way that he looks. So why should she not accept that her son looks exactly like him? She very rarely ever brings it up. In fact, just a couple of weeks ago was the first time she ever said anything. And it was at my sister's wedding, actually. This was part of the story that I forgot to tell you, James, that, I'm dressed up for the wedding and I'm just in like a polo and a pair of khakis. And like the polo is like a thin material and it's not hiding anything, even though I bought it in the right size. You can see the swell of my belly quite prominently. Mm-hmm. And she goes, "You putting on a little weight there?" And I'm like, well, and I point at my father and I go, "Well, I'm just like him." And my dad, who's swinging down a beer, goes, "Yeah."
Oh my gosh. Everyone in my family is like 100 pounds even, honestly. Like, I think, Mike, you and I have known each other for a few years. I've shared with you the stories of my disdain about my family. Like the next fattest person in my family was my sister when she was pregnant, and she was maybe only 120 pounds. And the obesity comments that people gave her, they were like, "Fuck's sake, Ricky, put down the fucking cheeseburgers." It was always like,
oh my God,
super duper intense. Like, and I've told the cheesecake story before about how it was in the trash because of my mom, and just it was to surmise for anyone who hasn't heard it. I bought a cheesecake. I was going to treat myself and eat the whole fucking thing because I thought I'm going to eat this on cam and I'm going to feel like a real pig, rah. Went to work, came home, wasn't there. Thought my stoner boyfriend had eaten it and that he was lying to me. But then I ended up making myself another sandwich. And then when I went to go put the scraps in the bin, there was the cheesecake at the bottom of the bin, like crushed up and destroyed. And I round on him like, "What the fuck is wrong with you? Why would you do that?" And he paused and he was like, "Did you know your mother was going to come over today?" And I was like, "No." Because apparently she had come over and said some story about how she and I were going to hang out, but whatever. And then I just thought, okay, I'm going to call her and figure this out. I hadn't even asked her, like, "How was your time hanging out with Ben?" when there was like a diatribe on the phone about my weight. I was maybe only 150 pounds at this point.
Wow.
Like, there was a lot of fat shame and fat negativity in my family. And I've made the joke before that my mother can't cook. And I always thought the food that she gave us as children was her way of trying to reduce the number of children she had.
Oh, dear.
I love her, but she's a shit fucking cook. So, so there's a lot of trauma there to overcome. But I don't know. I just find it so fascinating how it doesn't really seem to be a matter of race necessarily, but like there always seems to be some kind of thing from the family about weight and about size and about food, and how in your case, Abe, like sometimes they can just contradict, like, "Stop eating, you fat fuck," but also, "Please, here, have this entire roast meal, have everything and eat it right now. And if you throw away a single scrap, you're dead to me." Like, that's amazing. I love the conflict. That's a lie. I don't love the conflict. But I am curious to know, as gainers, we all have like preferences on how we kind of wish our body grew. Some people are like, "Oh, I wish I had bigger titties. I wish I was like broader in the shoulders," whatever. Like, there is something to be said that genetically, like, our bodies are predisposed to gain a certain way. Some of us gain typically more masculinely, some gain more femininely. But I also think that there is something to be said that racially speaking, our bodies might put fat in different areas. It might help us grow bigger in certain areas. So
that's true, and I'm very upset about it.
Well, because I'm curious, right? Because I can sort of look at most any gainer who obviously looks like me and think, "Oh, well, our belly's a similar shade. I will probably wind up with a body like that. I can probably assume I'll look like that." But for you guys, you probably don't have that expectation, or even if you start off the same shape when you're smaller, by the time you get to that size, your body shape might be very different because of genetically how your body is going to cause you to grow. I'm curious to know what that experience is like.
Really interesting, because I realized that how I thought I was going to get fat and how I thought like sort of everyone probably would get fat is like how white people get fat. How I did further realize that I liked like bigger legs, sort of bigger bottom half, and it's a very Latinx trait. So yeah, there seems to be a lot of the sort of body shape that I would assumed I was going to have and that I like to see. Very, very much that, not what I am myself. And to get at what I think you're going to get at is probably that is the result of then me not really seeing any fat Black people anywhere. So yeah, and it's still very much built in now. Like I have a big belly. Like my legs are not skinny, but they're not like I don't know. They're not. I think they're not in proportion, but you know, I've got big belly and big arms as well. And that's like the arms are cool, but I really wanted more of a even spread. But it is what it is. Like the point is, I've got what I've got, and I sort of need to now do the work to just love what I do have. Because when I catch myself, you know, when I'm not in that sort of like judgy headspace, I'm like, oh, fit. And you know, when I see other people around with my sort of body shape, like I don't judge them in the same way that I judge myself. But again, like I think the ideal was, you know, a body type that I saw, not my own actual body type, which I didn't see.
Almost the exact same story. I always thought that it would look like I've seen all the pictures and the videos of people, but almost all those people had been white, so I didn't really know how I was gonna gain weight, even though like my dad, for example, is heavier. Like I have an example in my family of how I would maybe gain weight, but our bodies are very different. Just because I have very broad shoulders, and I have a lot of chest, but I don't have like the round belly that I wish I would have.
Right.
So like that was always a source of like, I want this, but like, how do I get it? And I would like look up online how to do it. And it's like, mostly it's how your genetics are. And like, you can't really change it. And it's like, okay, well, whatever. So, over the past like 4 or so years, it's been a process of learning to accept same thing Mike said, just who I am and what I have, and loving and working with what I have. So hence why you see my like gym pictures all the time, because I'm like, I may not have the gut, I have the shoulders. I'm gonna work on that. So
yeah, there you go. Yeah.
I love that. And yeah, I honestly think that's such an important lesson that everyone needs to learn, especially in gainer culture. We look up to certain gainers and we think, oh, I love that aspect, but our bodies will just grow differently. And for the most part, you know, outside of gym work, you're probably not going to be able to do much to change that. So there's something to be said about learning to just love your body the way that it is, because it is a natural reflection of you, just of your own accord. If you could see and sit down with your younger self, the self that first knew that they wanted to grow and gain and everything, genuinely, what would you say to that person?
Oh, I mean, there's so much of other stuff that I would say, but I guess with regards to like gaining weight, I'd probably just say, I'd personally just say, it's going to happen. So it's going to be fine. You don't need to be sad about it. It's going to be okay. And just maybe try and give them a broader picture of what it's like to be bigger, and so he grows up and feels confident in how he does get bigger.
I would start off with saying to get all your travel in 2019, because 2020 is gonna suck. But after that, I think a large part of it is the same thing that Mike said, like giving an image of what it would look like to be a bit bigger person, and also to not be afraid of it. Because when I was younger, I feel like I was afraid of it. So I couldn't accept it. But now it's like, so if I had that earlier, that would have made my life so much more enjoyable.
Yeah.
You know?
I love that. If I could talk to my younger self, I'd tell him, I know you've only got $30 pocket money, but invest it in bottled water. You'll be rich. You'll have a lot of money. And when the world shuts down in 2020, you will not face the struggles that You may have otherwise done.
If I could talk to my younger self, I'd be like, okay, first of all, Y2K was a hoax, so don't go tell everybody else. It's not going to happen. 2, let's be honest here, kid. You like fat guys. You've always liked fat guys. You always will like fat guys. Perhaps someday you'll be a fat guy yourself, but more importantly, stop chasing after these skinny assholes that don't care about you.
Yeah.
Stop giving your time to these people. Stop fucking them just because they expect you to.
Yeah.
Just be who you are.
Yes.
And the chubby boy that you've been sleeping with on the down low, that's the one you should have made your boyfriend.
Yes. No more of this DL bullshit. As fat people, we deserve to be seen with people. Whether you are fat or thin is regardless, but don't be ashamed of us because we are nothing to be ashamed of.
Yeah.
Fuck that fat phobia. I want to pose another question to you both. You're both gainers with different disabilities. Mike, you use a cane, and Abe, you've had some experience with a stutter. I'm curious to know if those lived experiences have affected or influenced the way that you gain or the way that you interact with other gainers.
You go, Abe.
So personally, my stutters kind of always held me back when I was younger. Right. And then I turned 18 and I was like, fuck it. So now it's not really as much of an issue. Like I will talk your ear off without any problem. Like I will not stop talking. If you don't stop me, I will not stop talking. However, it is kind of a thing where like if people hear me and they hear my stammer first and not what I'm saying, I do get the responses and the looks and like the hurry ups, you know, it's like, I'm saying it, just give me a moment. It's not that bad. Like you can take an extra second of your life to listen to, let me finish my sentence. You know what I mean? Yeah. Other than that, it hasn't affected me a lot necessarily. Mostly because I don't let it affect me anymore. It's just part of me at this point that I've accepted is like just who I am and how I speak. And if you don't like me, go to hell. Like, like you know what I mean? Like it's essentially where I am.
I love that.
Yeah, that's good. Because I think with something like that, it's very easy to feel like, oh well, I'm different and everyone's judging me.
Yeah.
And sort of spiral into whatever. So it's good that you have that perspective, I reckon.
There are moments where like that thought crawls into my head, and as soon as it happens, I'm like, nope, not true.
Yeah,
not true.
That's good because it's not. It's
yeah,
good.
Exactly.
I love that.
I guess for me, maybe. Okay, so the thing is, it's made a huge impact because so I had scoliosis, but it was really, really bad. Let me see if I can get a picture up. And so because my body was like different to begin with, I kind of almost didn't want to go. I was sort of like, when I fixed my back, which the doctors told me was never going to happen, when I fix my back, then I'll gain, because I don't want to gain and look ridiculous. So scoliosis is like a curvature of the spine. And I don't, can you see that? No.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
So my spine went like that before. So yeah, like all of my organs were kind of being crushed. Obviously, gaining weight is probably a terrible idea. And yeah, so my torso was like maybe, well, not maybe, it was 5 inches shorter than it is now, just in the torso. So I had an operation maybe like 6 years ago now, but before that, I was 5'2". Now, 5'3". Now I'm 5'8". So very disproportionate looking body. I hit it well. But yeah, I had a very disproportionate. And so for that reason, I did start gaining weight because it got to a point where I was just like, I really like, this is in me. Like, it's not going away, like it's in me. So I did kind of, it got to a point where I was just like, fuck it, I'm just going to start. And then I did. And then my cousin actually told me, oh, they've made like big developments in, you know, the medical industry with regards to your condition. So check out. And then I did. And then it turned out they could do an operation, and now my spine looks like this one here.
Yay!
Oh wow!
Yeah, so I had 3 operations on my spine. They screwed some metal rods in me, and they fused like my vertebrae together. So like I said, now I'm taller. And obviously now my body's much more in proportion, which I feel, so, although, because it did not go well. It didn't go well. There were many complications. They cut a nerve to my leg, and now I can't, there's no balance in that leg. I can't feel exertion or temperature or pain. So because of the not feeling pain thing, I've managed to fuck up my foot in other ways because I just didn't know I was fucking it up because, you know, there was no pain telling me that something was wrong.
Right.
So yeah, I guess the biggest way it's affected me is that I waited for a long time to do anything, because I just thought I wasn't good enough as I was to be bigger. And to be honest, I don't know if I'm completely over that. Like, I feel definitely much, you know, better about it in terms of mental health and stuff like that. But if you were to ask me, would it matter if, you know, your torso was 5'3", but, you know, you were completely, you know, healthy or whatever and could be as fat as you want? Yeah, it would fucking bother me. Because I'd still feel not in proportion, and I still do have like hang-ups about my image a lot. So yeah.
No, bless you.
Mm.
I do want to ask as well, just before we get into the listener questions, you know, what have been your experiences with things like facial hair, body hair, and hairstyles? Because obviously, you know, for those who can't see, Mike rocks some beautiful dreads, nice long locks. You know, my understanding is that, you know, typically black hair and black hairstyles, you know, they experience problems in the wider Western world. Do you guys feel comfortable speaking to that?
Yeah, I mean, I used to have like shaved. I'll find a picture of myself here somewhere, where I had yeah, it was like shaved a lot of the time because I basically I believed that conforming was the correct thing to do, so I just did. And then one day I was like, I don't want to conform. Like, I don't want to conform to what people think I should look like. I want to do what I want. I like long hair, so guess what the fuck I'm gonna do? Gonna grow it.
Grow that bitch out.
Yeah, and I got tattoos, and, you know, I did stuff that I wanted to do instead of, you know, all of that stuff. But, you know, put on weight, all of it. So yeah, this is me.
Oh wow!
Oh wow!
Different, right?
Oh yeah.
I would not be able to recognize you. Oh my god!
That is a transformation.
That's not even your brother. That is your cousin. That's who that is. Like, that's how wide that difference is.
Yeah, it's mad.
Baby, that's everything.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Abe, what about you?
Mine is more with my confidence. I've always wanted to have a beard. Obviously I have one, but it took a while to get here. It's always been very like patchy and very wiry. I always saw other people with like beards that be more thick, more like close and stuff. And surprise, a lot of them were white people having beards, which is also, you know, another thing. But as I've gotten older and I've learned how to take care of it, I've learned to love it more, just because no one really ever taught me how to take care of it. And the things that I have seen online don't really match this specific texture of hair, but it's not the same as like my head hair. So it's just like looking for that, and finding comfort in it. That's also why whenever anyone is like, it's too long, you should cut your beard. No. No. Like I don't want to. I just don't want to. So
yeah. That's
You
good,
know,
dude.
I have been wanting to grow a beard forever. So, Abe, if you have any secrets, tips, tricks, on how to fill in those patches and make it fuller or thicker, because my facial hair texture is also different from the hair on my head,
Mhm.
and I have wanted to become a bear for I don't know how long, and it's never going to happen. I don't think.
Well,
I don't have enough chest hair. I don't have enough body hair. Like I got plenty of hair on my arms and legs and my head, but like everywhere else, it was, and I used to get complimented all the time. Oh, you're so smooth. I love how smooth you are. Like, no, I want to be a bear. God damn it. I've been trying so fucking hard and getting nowhere with it.
Well, to speak to that a little bit, there is a real importance in the wider bear community to be more open and accepting of people who don't have body hair, because we so often celebrate people, this idea of masculinity based on the depth of your voice and the amount of body hair. Got the beard and it's the hair and the tats and the piercings and the flannel shirt, and it's the more mask you can make yourself, the more appropriate you look. But there are men in our community. First of all, there are men who are trans men.
Yes.
Men who don't have any of the typical markers that people might be looking for. There are men who, regardless of cisgendered, transgendered, don't grow a lot of body hair, can't grow a beard. Maybe it's patchy, maybe it's this or that. There's such a diversity. There needs to be so much more diversity that we acknowledge as perfectly acceptable, genuine bears that don't need edits. They are perfectly valid just as they are. And I think a lot of what this conversation today centers on, if we really take the time to uplift more people of color, more people of diversity, we're going to create more of a beautiful patchwork of people who fit into what we can define as bears and gainers. There's more validity than maybe what we did before, and that's
if for no other reason than I would love to no longer be classified as a dolphin, because I think that's stupid.
Dolphin?
You've never heard that before, no. All the classifications, bear, twink, even giraffe for tall gay men. Dolphin is apparently like when they're totally smooth. I'm like, I don't want to be a goddamn dolphin. I want to be a bear.
that's
giraffe.
Giraffe. A giraffe is a really tall gay guy. In fact, there was a great joke about it on a TV show. It was this young gay guy was the protagonist of the TV show, and he was coming out for the first time, and he has this imaginary panel of gay men in his head that are advising him on how to live his new gay lifestyle. And the guy who's speaking is like, I'm a bear. We wear a lot of flannel. We got beards. We're usually barrel chested. And it goes down the line until they get to this very just innocuous looking tall gay man. And he goes, I'm a giraffe because I'm tall. I don't know why they can't just call me tall.
Yeah, it's true.
I love that. Oh my gosh. Well, we do have some listener questions, ladies. The first one is, what can the privileged among us do to help both minimize the fear and maximize the bellies of gainers of color?
I for me, I've just felt very excluded, for most of it. I know this happens to everyone, that I would like to make plans with, people on Grommr or whatever, and then they would never happen. And then I would see them hanging out with other, people for whatever reason. Probably race did play into it to a degree, because I think I can be quite forward as well. So I think it can come across as intimidating sometimes for people. So I don't know. I think maybe just accept, just be accepting, invite us places. We're not. We might be from a slightly different culture, but we're not. We're still human. If you know what I mean. We're not other.
A big thing that I've noticed is definitely that inclusion point. If, for example, this is a great example. If you're having a panel or a podcast, invite us in, let us speak, just, have us present. If you're having an event or something, make sure that we're also present, not just as people going to the event, but people organizing, people founding the event. That's important. And also to just look within yourself, catch your own moments of racism, because that happens to everyone. Just catch your own moments. And if someone calls you out on that, accept it as something that you're working on, because everyone is working on it. So if you're able to do that, and other people recognize that you can say, yeah, there's things that I'm working on, and I'm working on this and this and that, that makes a world of a difference. A world of a difference.
I also think that it wouldn't kill some of these Grommr celebrities to give back a little bit to the community rather than just, accepting this constant adulation and people's money. And like, okay, you want to promote yourself, I get that. But while you're at it, you could also promote some other people. You could be like, I don't know, you could just say something nice about them. You don't even have to like include videos of them or try to seek them out so that they're a part of your content. You can just say something nice about them. Mm-hmm. Go on your Instagram and say, I follow this guy or this person of color or whatever, and be like, they're awesome. Their pictures, they're gorgeous. Their pictures are wonderful. Like, it's that simple.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We just had AAPI month, on several occasions. I made a point to shout out everyone that I knew was explicitly AAPI. If there were people that I followed that weren't following me back, I asked them, are you comfortable with me giving you a shout out? And then I was speaking with friends like Slabs of Abs, and we were discussing like, oh, I follow this person. Oh, well, I follow this person. And, you make new contacts that way. I've got new friends by doing this. What did I lose out on by making an effort just to talk about how great someone is? Nothing. I gained new friends.
Right.
I think there is intention. What is your intention? Do you want to be seen to do the right thing, or do you just want to do the right thing? And I think you know in yourself what your motivations are. And I think people can also see with the outworking of it what your intentions are. So I think it's just worth it to really do some probing and work that out for yourself. I actually want to ask one last question for the pair of you, because of the topic of the conversation. Is there something that we haven't spoken about today that either one of you feels like we need to talk about this, or we just want to bring this up?
Real quick, doesn't have to be a whole conversation. Going back to the thing about like the pictures and all the groups of like mostly white people in a whole. So I live in New Jersey. I travel a lot to New York. It's not really traveling for me. It's like I said earlier, like an hour drive. I'm usually there. So a lot of the connections, the people that I know that I follow are in New York City. So there is this thing that we have to all keep in mind, that racism is internal as well as external.
Right.
So if you and your friends are based in a place like New York City, and there are several pictures of you and your friends, like 20 people in a picture, and none of them are people of color, in New York City, that seems very intentional. Even if it's not, it seems very intentional. And be aware of that. Like, your internal biases are going to reflect in your interpersonal relationships. And work on and go against those biases to make new friends, meet other people that are not like you, because that will just be generally beneficial for everyone involved. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it's a very similar situation here in London. The amount of pictures I see of people in their little harems out and about on the town, and I'm like, in a place like London, like, really, like, not one brown person, like, you couldn't have gone Clapham, couldn't have gone Peckham, couldn't have gone Southeast. But I think that's really important, and thank you, Abe, for bringing that up. I feel like the biggest takeaway for me from the whole BLM that's happened in the past year is anti-racism. It is making your point to focus on racism wherever you see it, including within yourself. Because as you said, Mike, it's not just white people. There is elements for people of color to address their own internalized racism, and it's systemic, which relies on all of us to really make the effort to speak on it and act on it to change it. And I think that's that. So I want to say thank you to the pair of you. Thank you so much for being with us today, sharing your experiences and feeling comfortable and safe to speak and share those experiences with us. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Can we like see? These are the people that I want to get to know. Like, I want like this, like communities of these kind of people. Like, where are these communities? Do you know what I mean?
Scattered.
Like, it's cool, but
we're scattered all over the world. So, just to ask the pair of you, where can we find you online, Mike?
So I'm on Instagram as bigboybravery, and that's pretty much it. It's sort of just a little Instagram I put together to encourage bigger guys, really, and myself. So yeah, come say hi.
Do it. Hey.
Yeah.
So I am on Instagram as sneakyseabear. I'm like that on almost every single social media except for Twitter, where I'm Seabear Abe for the moment. I'm still looking for Sneaky Seabear. On other circles, I'm also known as Bear Growler. Bear like the animal, Growler like the app. One word. On Instagram and on Twitter. That is for more explicit content, which I don't mind saying on here. And yeah, that is where I am.
Fantastic. Well, look, thank you both so much for joining us today. Oh, gosh, that's a wrap for now here on Thicc Radio. Please remember to like and subscribe, rate, and give us 5 stars. Leave a good review. As always, you can find me on Grommr and Instagram at stannnum, and Twitter and YouTube at stannnum.g.
And you can find me on Grommr as Orpheus. You can also find me on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and now TikTok as Thicky Mouse. And of course, you can find more of what we've talked about today on Instagram and Patreon at Thicc Radio.
And now we're on Twitter and TikTok too. Also,
oh, that's right, yes.
Also at Thicc Radio. But until next time,
bye, Fats.
Let's talk about it.
Thicc Radio is a Patreon and Enter app podcast produced by Stannnum and Thicky Mouse.
Mixed and mastered by stannnum.
Our artwork is provided by Lokitu.
Our theme song is provided by Thiccradio.